Hey guys, it's Brian Rose. This week we have Myles Dyer on the show. He's a YouTube pioneer, a marketing Jedi, and he's got something called the Universal Solutions Project, which is the idea to help everyone engage with and try to change the world. So check him out.
Now, here's a little story I got to tell about three bad brothers you know so well. It started way back in history with that Rob and me.
My team!
Been had a little horsey named Paul Revere. Just me and my horsey and a...
Hello and welcome to London Real. My name is Brian Rose. With me, as usual, is Mr. Nick Gabriel. And joining us in studio today is Mr. Myles Dyer, who is a YouTube pioneer, a marketing Jedi, and is the founder or creator of the Universal Solutions Project.
Brian, you forgot he's got his own band.
He's also the member of a band, right? And he's also a hair innovator, and he's got the coolest rings I've ever seen. Can you show him the rings? Check that out.
Yeah. Have you ever punched anyone with those and left a little skeleton imprinted on some guy's cheek?
I haven't punched anyone.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and I used to have a ring that had spikes on it, and the time I stopped wearing it was self-inflicted pain because I actually rubbed my eye and
cut yourself.
Right.
It's hard being such a fashion icon.
Everyone suffers for their fashion, don't they? Isn't that?
But it's a price you're willing to pay, right?
Until I did the eye thing, and now I've gone to more smooth, round things. Yeah,
dude, I was telling one of our fans that we had you on the show, and he was like, "You're having Myles Dyer on?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know him." And he's like, "Yeah, this guy is was like a god back in the day. Not that you're not now, but like on the YouTube circuit and with your Blade 376 moniker, like." You were owned it back in the day, right? I mean,
in the golden days.
I just checked out on YouTube. You're 7 million views and 30,000 subscribers. I mean, it's off the charts.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my active subscriber count is probably around 5,000, just because people come and go over the 5-6 years I've been on YouTube.
Okay.
And as the community's changed over the past 6 years, I mean, just to put it in perspective, I organised the first ever UK YouTube gathering, which was for YouTubers to come together.
Crazy.
And the average age was maybe 25 to 30, but now it's 15, 16-year-olds.
Okay.
And
what year was that gathering?
So that was 2007, beginning of 2007.
So what happened? So YouTube changed your life?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you watched on YouTube?
It was the reason I joined it, which was a man named Peter, geriatric 1927. So he was an 80-year-old man.
Oh, was a British guy that used to post about the war and stuff.
Still does.
Yeah, have you ever seen this guy? Yeah, he was just this old guy that would post video things on YouTube.
And it was on BBC News, just the hysteria of old people are normally associated with being technophobes, but he went against that stereotype.
It's amazing.
And I checked him out, and it wasn't just his video that captured my imagination. It was the fact that people were doing video responses. So they were sharing their stories, and I was like, I called it the YouTube experience, which is between the fabric of these videos, you had interaction, and it wasn't just a site to dump video. There was a community there. And so I did a video, maybe 20 views, and people said, I like what you had to say. And I used it to promote a film script I wrote called A Word of Advice, and it was about the direction I thought the world was taking. Mm-hmm. And people were interested. But then what I realized was, why am I using my film script as a vehicle for my ideas when I can just speak on camera? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And you just years on, the quote I use again and again is, progress is something you only notice when you look over your shoulder, because I wasn't assuming to get where I was now or the experiences. I just kept promoting what was good about the internet, and it became a self-fulfilled prophecy. Mm-hmm. And for that, I'm so grateful to live in the time.
You have tons of good energy you just put out there, right? I mean, you just... It's all positive, do this, let's help this, let's get everybody together.
I've gone through a lot of negativity as well. And last night I actually got a tweet from someone saying, do you ever get bored of being that guy?
Which guy is that?
Well, I didn't even ask that. And I just said that as long as you see change happening. And for me, I've become a lot more serious the past 2 years, because I started really educating myself more.
With regards to what, Myles?
Just how the world runs, the crises that we're facing in terms of resources, population growth, the government. It's all very, very intense. And
it is, huh?
I found potential solutions. But as soon as you start taking that route, you find you isolate yourself. And the people that, some of the most subscribed people on YouTube, who I am still good friends with, there's been a distance. And I wouldn't say necessarily they've turned their back on me. They just do not want to be associated with someone who talks serious, because as soon as you bring anything that is deemed political or something that's deemed serious, that's already not what's going to make a popular YouTube video.
Yeah, people want like cats falling off tables and stuff.
YouTube mainly is a form of escapism. It's how do you get out of the mundane reality of life? And for me, my answer to that is by solving it.
It used to be more escapism. I mean, it's now completely changed, right? I mean,
it is, and it still is changing vastly. Right. I think in the next year, a lot of the mainstream media is going to be very dominant online. And I think it's why you're seeing a lot of conflictions with stuff like the SOPA legislation and CISPA, all these internet acts they're trying to pass in the US. It is.
Yeah.
Because
really
they realise that they're being undermined. And the example I give again and again is if you take WikiLeaks, the New York Times and The Guardian had done deals with Julian Assange to publish these cables that were leaked. But after a while they stopped. And this is just my own hypothesis. I'm not saying this is the case.
Okay.
But I said that the reason I think they did stop doing it was maybe political pressure, but they realised they were shooting themselves in the foot, because why would a newspaper want to publish facts for people or publish their interpretation and journalistic spin on facts when people could actually access it for free online? And that's how the internet works. People bypass, take the route of least resistance, and they don't like it because the internet is cutting out the middleman across all industries.
I guess you must tread a very fine line between educated and intelligent individual with valuable opinions and conspiracy theorists, because if you push too far in one direction, people are just like, that guy's a total kook. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's why I think you need to talk in terms that relate to people, because you can go up to people and say, this is what we need to do right now. The KONY 2012 thing that went huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people were expecting me to do a response. I just didn't want to add more fuel to the fire. But it went against a lot of what I believe in, which is, yes, it inspired people, but on a false premise where I came up with the belief that empathy, which is what I always am a champion for, rallying for, it's based on a cycle of awareness, and then people become aware of an issue, then they educate themselves and thus become more aware, and then they educate themselves more, and it's a cycle.
You talked about this at your recent talk, right?
Yeah, I did.
Awareness, education cycle, right?
Exactly. And with KONY, people became aware, and then when they educate themselves, they realised that it's a very complicated issue, and they became aware that actually they couldn't do that much. Because for me, and it's not to condemn charities, I think in a lot of cases, charity is a form of apathy, because people just pass the money, and that's what they've done.
Well, they found with Africa, like it's something like it just does more harm than good. A lot of these charities, right? Was it Bob? Who is it? Bob Geldof? Who does the big Africa aid concerts?
Bob
Geldof does.
Yeah, I mean, he's great, but I mean, a lot of times giving them aid is the wrong thing to do, right?
It is and it isn't. I think it's better than completely cutting off, but I think there are better ways of doing it. So when because I do an event called Stick Aid every year, which is a 24-hour non-stop live show. It's like a telethon for online to raise money for UNICEF, and I've done it 7 years now. But I was invited to a talk with UNICEF. They were just giving talks, and Paddy Ashdown, one of the old leaders of the Liberal Democrats, was giving a talk, and they opened it to questions, and there weren't really that many questions, but mine was, when are we going to start putting scientists at the forefront of our decision making? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's just full of spokesmen, regardless if their intentions are good or not. People can have good intentions all the time. It doesn't mean what they're doing is effective. And he was like, I don't know what you mean. And I said, I could name you 2 technologies now which have been available for 30 years which could eradicate most famine in the world. And he went, oh, so what is it? And I said, it's hydroponics, which is the growing of food in dishes and in water, effectively, solution. They use it in Antarctica and a lot. And the other is vertical farms, which are skyscrapers, which every layer, every floor is a different field. And, there's less space being wasted. You can optimize the amount of sunlight that comes in, the temperature, use hydroponics for the solution. So you're not using chemicals, you're actually optimizing nature for plants. And I said, if you have those 2 things implemented, you could feed the whole world. And he said, I'd never heard of that before. And I didn't say this, but that is effectively my point. That
so you're saying politicians should be scientists?
Yeah, completely.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you, Brian. I heard a pop in the mic. Can you just check that
we're good? We're good. Cool. When you talk about doing this charity, like you do this 24-hour piece, and I read that you've done it for 7 years. I mean, how old were you when you did that? Because like when I'm in my 20s, not a lot of people say, what can I do to give back? I mean, that's a big thing. So,
It-
how did that happen?
It was just very trivial. Again, it's this thing of I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know how scalable it was going to be. So I just set up my laptop in my bedroom at university. And I thought I'll do a 24-hour thing, see what 24 hours is like, and take it from there. And about 30,000 people tuned in, £500. So it was awesome. And I just did it year on year, and it's just grown. And now it's in.
It's very cool.
What did you do for 24 hours?
Just sit there and tell jokes. And
Was it just one-way information flow?
no, so there was a chat room,
Okay.
and people could go on video as well. And it was just chilling, hanging out with people. But then year on year, it's got crazy because I then did it at my parents' house with a friend. I then did it at university, and now it's at a television studio, Ravensbourne University in next to the O2. And 1.5 million tune in every year now.
1.5 million. Wow. And it's you in a webcam.
So
now?
now it's proper broadcast, like
Okay.
a whole like broadcast room and television cameras, and now I have guests, and this year we're having different people host different segments.
How do you stay awake?
The pressure of failure, that if people are donating money, you cannot step away.
Okay. So it's like 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. or something crazy?
So it started, the first few years it was like 9 a.m. till 9 a.m, but it was actually easier to do midday to midday. But it's a mind.
You don't drink coffee? Or do you for that
No, I
occasion?
don't, because you get the crash.
Okay, yeah.
So and actually last year, I thought it was this year. It's gone so quickly. It was last September. I had maybe 4 mouthfuls of food in 24 hours, because every hour there's a 5-minute break. But by the time I've got to the bathroom and unzipped my flies, it's time to go back on.
crazy.
And yeah, it's intense.
Would you say that you're someone who's always been concerned about the state of the world?
I've always cared, and I think my education has allowed me to understand what I can do constructively to help the world. So yeah, I think everyone. The whole thing of empathy, I think everyone is a caring person. When you have people like trolls online that are giving hate, it's because they're faced with a disconnect. They don't realise the effect they're having on someone else. My true belief is if there was total education across the world, there would be no more hurt or pain inflicted on each other, because people would know the consequences of their actions. And so, especially in the past 2 years since I've been researching stuff, I've cared a lot more.
There seems to be like a lot of activism coming from the youth, but I mean, like, I have a bone to pick sometimes. I mean, like, we had a politician on the show, and people were like, oh, fuck politicians, they're not doing anything, and I was like, okay, you don't vote. You make a lot of buying decisions in your day that help these bad corporations. I don't see you actively doing anything except for complaining about the state of the world. So sometimes when I see these young people like on YouTube and stuff that want to jump behind a KONY 2012 maybe without being educated, I just wonder, what are they actually doing?
Man.
With their buying dollars as well, what are they actually doing?
No, see, I'm conflicted with this point, because I kind of see that. And I think it's if you give them the tools of how to spread awareness and educate and be a problem solver, I think they will. It's just at the moment people are like, what can we do? And so if something comes together, and the thing with KONY, it was a bandwagon. People felt shunned or bad if they didn't. I tweeted the video before I saw it.
Has that died now?
It's probably still bubbling about.
Okay, but after the director got arrested, did that kind of crash it? And then
Why did he get arrested? I didn't even know about that.
You don't?
No.
he was like publicly nude in my hometown of San Diego, like running
I had no
around.
idea. Yeah.
Till he was arrested or something. He had like a breakdown, but he was like running around naked. Crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then also people were educated, and then they found out, okay, KONY wasn't necessarily the threat they said he was. But I don't know, is it still going on? Because the video itself was beautiful and horrible at the same time. I mean, you had to give him credit. Because for 30 minutes, it really drew you in, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It was good propaganda.
You don't want to
for
say anything
foreign
about it, do you?
intervention. No, I'm happy to. For me, it's they tried with good intent, and I don't think, although there were negative criticisms you can make of KONY, I don't think its cause had a negative impact. The only thing, well, actually, I guess I'm going to contradict myself here. It probably made a lot of young people feel desensitized to this sort of thing, or I was tricked. But then that in itself is a learning process. So like when people are proven wrong in life, that's not a bad thing. It's enlightenment, and this is a big cultural thing. People are stubborn. People don't want to be proven wrong. That has made me have the biggest patience in the world now, because I realise if I'm told I'm wrong, that's not helpful. But if you prove I'm wrong, I can now develop as an individual and move in the right direction.
So interesting you said it, because Brian and I were having lunch a while back, and we were speaking about the very same thing. I was telling Brian, one of the things I enjoy most about life is like being shown something that I believed was one way, and then shown that it's actually in reality completely the other way. It's like I feel quite a good thing
I
for your
think
own
about that a
growth.
lot. I mean, Nick and I train jiu-jitsu, and there's a famous Brazilian guy in New York. His name is Renzo Gracie, and he's got a picture on his wall of when one guy broke his arm in a fight, and he says, "You learn nothing from a win." That's what he says. And I just thought about that the other day. Like, you learn nothing from a win. So when you're proven that you're wrong, I guess that's when the learning curve climbs. So,
Yeah.
Should we break his arm now?
yeah, let's do it.
Which one? Because I write with this one.
You know, I want to hear a little bit more about you, and then I want to talk about the USP. Do you call it that?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a universal solutions project. But
I wanna hear about it as
we
well.
met Myles because of your employment by channelflip.com. And so you've gone from like kind of YouTube, what do you call yourself? A YouTube what?
Well, my job title is YouTube Marketing Jedi.
Okay.
Which I kind of did as a joke, and they were like, "No, that'll do."
That is probably the coolest job title in the world.
It's pretty cool. So you started off just like an active interest in YouTube, and then you got the community involved. You started doing these 24-hour pieces. And then I think when we met at your offices, you were like, you kind of evolved into this role.
Yeah, I was able to do it on a professional basis, and by then I was sort of out. My interest for the YouTube community hadn't gone away. I just played a less significant role because there's a product cycle on YouTube, and mine had expired in a way.
Had it?
I think you learn that YouTube's nothing more than a platform, because you could get 1 million views on a video or 100 views, but ultimately, are you doing what you enjoy? Actually, the views don't really. They don't make a huge difference, except for the amount of people I guess you inspire and help. So
Okay, speak. What's on your mind?
Well, dude, you would have chopped your arm off for a few more YouTube views for the
I'm
past
very
6 months.
No.
view-centric. It's a metric.
I think views relative-wise are important. You want to see progression. I think that's important. Right. But I think that if you reach out to 10 people and you make a significant impact, that's awesome.
Okay. That's cool. So that is cool. So now you're just kind of using all your YouTube knowledge now in a professional way, and just helping people promote their channels and things like that.
Yeah, and the company I work for is amazing, and I enjoy it, which I think is a blessing. Not many people can say they enjoy what they do, and it means in my free time I'm then able to be intense and do things that would drive me insane.
You must be working 24 hours a day, dude, because we saw you in the offices where you're doing your job, I'm guessing, for 8-10 hours a day, and then at night you go and film your own videos and question of the day and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't stop really, and I'll take my laptop to bed until I'm so exhausted I will just pass out.
Do you ever unplug for a few days?
I get asked this a lot. I think I do, but I always do it. So like my band I'm in, I was a drummer for, but I'm now being able to be the vocalist, heavy metal band.
What's the name of the band? Give it a plug.
It's called Schemata Theory.
Okay.
So facebook.com/Schemata Theory. And writing the lyrics for it, it's all about what directions does the world take. So although it's a nice way to unwind, it's still constructive. And it's actually the ethos of the charity event I do, that you can do what you enjoy, but in a context that helps other people. And I think anyone can do that. So there were chefs on there. There was people that built stuff for Robot Wars. There were video bloggers. There were bands doing what they normally do, getting exposure from it, and also helping people around the world that don't have a voice and don't have the necessities of life. And I think that's not just for charity. That can be anything. So,
Myles, what was the biggest thing you, in all the years you've spent working with YouTube, what was the biggest thing you've learned about people?
I've learned not to give up on people, actually, because I've had a lot of people that have hated on me, and I will never give up on them. So that, and another thing which I think is people generally is it's that phrase of you can't please all people all the time. Definitely can't.
Brian said something I found very interesting last week. He was referring to Ice-T's statement that people always hate up, they never hate down. And I've been thinking about that a lot. That was very cool.
It's something to kind of internalize, as long as you don't take it the wrong way. But yeah, people always hate up. So, you know, if you're getting hate, as a matter of fact, you have to get some hate if you're doing something right. Do you ever think of it that way?
Yeah. Well, I did a video called Dealing with the Hate, and my main point with that was that you should take comfort if someone throws hate your way, because
means you're doing something right.
And they think you're significant because they want to let you know that they exist.
That's
they want
you hating up again.
No, that's interesting.
So you know, we had a guy that was commenting on our videos like 5 videos ago, and he just recently posted something. He's like, "I used to think you guys were shit, but now I'm really liking your videos." He's like, keep it going, guys.
Yeah, I saw that today.
That's progression.
When you say you don't give up on people, you don't give up with people in general, or you don't give up on even those specific people that hate on you.
It depends, really. I mean, if it's a comment, there's not really much I can do apart from keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully they'll change their mind. There are some times where I will leave a comment on their channel or a mail and go, I'm sorry, you saw it this way, and I'll explain myself. Actually, that's probably something that's a weakness of mine, is I never want to be misunderstood. Okay. So even growing up with my family, I used to tell my parents when I did like strong drugs, and they hated me admitting it, and I said, look, the reason I'm telling you is so you have no reason to suspect I'm doing anything else. That's the only reason I did it. So yeah.
That's cool.
Wow. I find that with YouTube we get, since it's anonymous or more anonymous than Facebook, that we get a lot more casual. We don't get that much hate at all. It's like 2%, but we get those comments, whereas on Facebook, since there's usually an identity behind it, it's much less. Is that the case? Or with you at least?
I don't know, really. I think it differs from person to person.
It's a good point, Brian. I think, yeah.
I mean, what's your experience with it?
I found that with Facebook, it's mostly positive, because there's also someone that's kind of, with YouTube, a lot of the names are, aliases and stuff, Blade 376 and stuff, and obviously Facebook didn't start that way, but
anonymity
also
emboldens people, for sure.
I also think that's changing, though. I think that used to be the easy way to take the pot shots, but I don't know. It just feels like most people online, they think before they type now, which they might
especially
not have
with
in the past.
these acts coming in. I mean, you're not going to be online, anonymous online for much longer. I mean,
well, that's the reason that I was not quick to jump on saying YouTube was easier, because I think it is currently, but for me, Facebook, people seem to not worry so much about their names being there. You hear stories of people being arrested for stuff they've said on Facebook now.
Apparently, like employers in the U.S., like 80 or 85% of them do a full internet background check, and that's heavy.
It is. I mean, they're building something, I don't know where in the States right now, but they're building a facility, it's like 20,000 square foot, where they will log every email or instant message sent and sift through it. And there's complications at the moment, because if they want to do you for being suspicious or anything related to terrorism, they will alert your service provider, and you have so many days or weeks it is to respond, but the service provider doesn't necessarily tell you, so you have no way of appealing. And the agencies over there being questioned, and they said, well, this is what we need to do for security. That the government is very scared at the moment with the internet, because it's so free flowing, and it's allowing society to evolve in the right direction.
When you say the right direction, what does that mean?
So complete transparency. So if you look at WikiLeaks, the video that was released where Julian Assange had that video of the Iraqi civilians being shot to pieces by helicopter. The argument is it's bad for national security, because now it will annoy the people out there who we're fighting. But then it's a chicken and egg thing. If that hadn't been done in the first place, then that video would never been released. So they'd go, but it has been, so we need to keep it cut. Well, no, the sooner we start holding people accountable, the sooner we'll stop these atrocities from happening. And
there's that quote by JFK when he says I think the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And I really agree with you on that, Myles. I think the sooner governments are transparent. What was Yannick Naud was speaking about that as well?
Yeah, he was just saying, I guess just transparency where you can see what every politician has voted on. It's so transparent, I guess, in Norway, he was saying, where everyone's tax return is online.
Right.
But
it's even like stuff is available, but it's the culture that people have. So when people are voting for a politician, they're not voting for the person, they're voting, are they a Democrat or Republican? And they're not looking at their voting record or anything like that. And I think that the elections we're seeing in the States at the moment is probably going to be one of the last two-party elections.
Really?
I mean, it was in the UK. It's changing now. People want to vote on policies and not politicians, because all of it's a compromise.
You were talking about Ron Paul earlier. You're a fan?
I have to be careful, because I don't agree with everything he says. I want him to win the nomination for the Republican, the GOP candidacy, just so he can be on the debate with Obama. Because I think that's going to be a much more interesting debate. He'll talk about the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows the American government to arrest any citizen without evidence, without trial, indefinitely, and torture him, which is outrageous. Yeah. And people aren't talking about it.
What do you think about that, Brian?
I want to know a few more facts about it, but there are a lot of issues right now with what the U.S. has kind of gone a little bit too far when it comes to combating terrorism, and I think you have to challenge it, and you have to get the debate going, and you have to get the transparency.
Right.
Yeah.
I mentioned that act to someone whose opinion I really respect. I mean, he's a doctor of philosophy, and he said it's a good thing. Only the terrorists need to be afraid. And I mean, to me, that's a real disconnect, because the government isn't necessarily going to know who's a terrorist and who's not. I mean, they're just going to choose someone and say, we have reason to believe that he's doing something we don't like. Let's just chuck him in a van, take him down and to Gitmo and have our way with him. It's just
I mean,
mind-blowing.
I just don't think anyone's seen been reminded of what a police state can be like, and how bad it is not to have Miranda rights and all of these things.
Do you think the U.S. is moving towards a police state?
I mean, obviously, with a lot of these laws on the books, they can do these things. Now, they're probably not necessarily doing them, or we will find out about it. But then you need the WikiLeaks and people to make sure it just stays ultra transparent. Like, I don't think anyone can credibly argue that helicopter video that he released shouldn't have been released. I mean,
but unfortunately, there's Bradley Manning, who is the US soldier who is being accused of releasing those documents. He's 22, 23, actually might be a bit older, but he's been kept in solitary confinement.
His conditions are bad, but he did breach security.
I'm not denying it, but then what is the process of whistleblowing? Like, that supposedly if he'd done it under the acts of whistle, I don't know the facts, but what sort of society are we having where, like...
This is the guy that basically gave Julian Assange all the information from WikiLeaks, and he was treated really
allegedly
poorly. Allegedly, he was treated really poorly for a while, like in solitary confinement, and they wouldn't give him medical access and stuff. I think that's changed a bit. But.
Do you think so? With it's SOPA and CISPA, right? Those are the names of the two sister acts.
So they had SOPA and PIPA, and now they've got CISPA. They keep reintroducing new. Like, as soon as one gets taken down, they'll write up another one. So the new one, CISPA, is about. So SOPA was about if you upload a piece of footage to YouTube and you don't own the rights, they could shut down YouTube, which is ludicrous. So the companies were against it. But then you look at CISPA, which is basically saying the US government can have any of your personal information from companies, which a lot of them are probably doing anyway. But what this law will mean is the companies cannot be sued by the people, so people are not protected.
That's terrifying. But do you think that the internet, just by its very nature, is? Do you think it's ever possible to control it? Do you think, like, let's say the U.S. government wanted to pass a whole bunch of acts and all of them were put into place? I'm sure, like, the hackers would find a way to circumvent that.
Yeah, and this is where it gets into sort of unknown territory of what, like, Anonymous and that are doing. I'm not sure, because it's like the more resistance, does that then put the government in a position to shut it down? And can they? I mean, there was a case in Egypt when they were shutting down the internet for when the revolution was happening in Egypt, and Vodafone were approached, and Vodafone were given a choice by the government. They said, right, you're either going to shut down the internet now, or we're going to do it ourselves. And Vodafone was in a tough position, because if they shut it down, it means they could then at any point turn the internet back on within a matter of hours, I believe. But if the government shut it down using just brute force, it would take weeks to repair. So what choice do you go with?
Interesting, especially when the government tells you to shut the internet down.
On a lighter note, can you tell us about the Universal Solutions Project?
And actually, this is a good segue, because I do like talking about politics, and it's why I'm sort of a bit iffy with talking about Ron Paul and Obama and the policies, because politics is not the solution in the traditional stance, and even in terms of we're saying how a lot of young people are desensitized. It's why I've put forward the Universal Solutions Project as a solution. So do you want me to explain it?
I'd love to.
How old are you?
25.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
It's a lifetime of experience in 25 years, right?
That is amazing. So do people come up to you and say, Myles, what can I do?
Yes. So that's the problem with the Universal Solutions Project, is I need to build the system, the infrastructure, which I can explain in a moment. Okay. But I have hundreds of people saying, what can I do? What can I do? And until it's built, I can't. And then they get bored and go off. And so yeah, it's a bit frustrating.
So tell us what it is and how you came up with the idea, and just like the genesis of the Universal Solutions Project.
Well, I came up with it after I joined the Zeitgeist movement for a couple of years, which had done quite a few big movies. And I looked at the Venus Project, which is run by a man called Jacques Fresco. He's a 95-year-old man who works in Venus, Florida.
Yeah,
heard
I've
of
watched a
him.
few of his videos.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
He's 95, working every day. He's designed something called a resource-based economy, which is by using technology you can free mankind from scarcity, and everyone has everything available. Conversation for another time.
Okay.
But he met Einstein when he was 16, and he was on Larry King in 1974 saying, in the future, we'll have an online database for music, we'll have flat screen TVs, automated cars.
He said this stuff in 1974.
74 on the Larry King show. And he said we have geothermal energy, which can have, like, from one volcano, you can have enough energy for 1,500 years. And at 95, he's not been disheartened. And that's what's inspired me to keep going. It's why I don't give up now, because I realise he's not going to see what he wants to happen. But if you do nothing, nothing will happen, which is his main point. So he really inspired me with this, because he taught me about educating people on terms that they understand. So he joined a fraction of the KKK, and within 2 months he dissolved it by talking on their terms. I recommend anyone.
That is just fantastic.
Yeah.
What's the best way to find out about this guy?
So just search Jacques Fresco.
Jacques Fresco,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll leave you.
I'm
with the
really
spelling.
excited to hear your thoughts on a resource-based economy, Brian.
Yeah, I want to check it out.
It took me about 2 years to get my head around it, because there was a lot of disagreements. I got a lot of hate for supporting it, like being called a communist and that. And it's been a hard 2 years for me, because whenever someone brings an idea into the world, it starts with one person, always does. So they have to transform the world. So like the Wright brothers, when they designed the first ever plane, scientists of the time said it's impossible to fly. So they went to their own garage, did it, and proved them wrong. It's like...
One of my favorite expressions is there's nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. I really like that.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah. It's very empowering. But yeah.
So you realize this has to be an uphill battle, what you're doing?
Completely.
Okay.
So the Universal Solutions Project is non-discriminatory in terms of what matters to people. So there are 3 stages. I'll go over them very quickly.
Take your time, man.
Okay. The first stage is to create an online database of information. The second is to enable audience acquisition, and the third is to create tools for spreading awareness. So the first stage is an online database, and what it is, it's like a wiki site. And a lot of people criticize this idea, saying we've got Wikipedia or we've got Yahoo Answers. They're both good sites, but this is combining the two concepts so that you relay information to people in a way that relates to them. So each page would be a problem page, effectively. At the top of the page, you'd have a question. Why is unemployment going up? Why are people dying of hunger? Why is there this particular disease? Why do people die in car crashes? And underneath it, you have a paragraph explaining what the root cause of the problem is. And the point I make again and again is, if you think of any law that exists in the world today, what does it actually mean? It means the government has not found a way to deal with the problem in the first place. It's patchwork. And actually, if you look at in civilizations over the history of mankind, everyone has collapsed because of overcomplication. So what you do is you enforce laws, which means you now need bureaucracy, and you need people to enforce those laws, which costs money. So you need more tax, which puts more pressure on the civilization, which means more laws, more enforcement, and it's a spiral. And you're seeing that in society today.
This is why you like Ron Paul. He wants to abolish the IRS and all sorts of other kinds of stuff.
And again, I don't know if I can fully support it, because I'm ignorant of that sort of thing. So like political debate, I'm not very good at, because I just don't buy the system completely. But no, it's a fair point. He does want to abolish a lot, but I don't know if what he's doing is the way of it working. Right. Because capitalism doesn't cater for the resources on the planet, because it just wants to strip all the resources. It's about consumption, and as opposed to living with the carrying capacity of the planet. Which I can get to in a moment. But so you have the first paragraph, root causes, and the example I gave to a primary school was if you were working at a toy factory and you had all the toys coming off the production line, you would put them in the boxes, and then if they started coming off broken, you'd fix them, put them in the box, fix them, put them in the box. But until you fix the machine, you're then going to save a lot of time. But you translate that to the way we live in the world today, you wouldn't have that happen. You wouldn't automate cars that could eradicate, I think it's like 94% of all car accidents, because what about the service industry? There's money in there being problems like planned obsolescence. It's why engineers are asked to make stuff break, etc. Jacques Fresco told me that the first ever light bulb, which if it's refuted, fair enough, but I could believe it. He said the first ever light bulb lasted about 100 years. And
I've heard things about this.
Yeah, and it's because engineers are paid to make stuff break. So people.
Well, I mean, there are conspiracy theories which claim that the car that can run on, well, the engine that can run on water actually exists, but the oil companies have just bought up all the patents. I don't know if I believe it, but I mean, I'm sure there's some truth to it.
I buy it because there's cases where car companies have they had faulty car parts and they didn't recall it for a long period of time. And the reason why is they have an equation. Some people remember it from Fight Club, but it is a reality, which is what is the cost of paying compensation if people die and get injured? What is the cost of recalling it? And if the cost of people paying compensation to people who've died and that is less than the recall, they will
pay the compensation. Yeah.
So
this is something Brian and I we always disagree on. I mean, I personally am inherently distrustful of corporations, but Brian's like, I think he believes that corporations are responsible for a lot of the progress.
That is true. Yeah. And that is true because competition encourages collaborate, people to find the best ideas, but actually they then end up concealing patents and keeping ideas themselves. If it was completely open source, you would be progress would be a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, transparency will just get us further on that line, but it's almost like the innovator's dilemma. You almost need someone else to come along to get to the next level.
Right.
Because nobody wants to cannibalize their income, and no one wants to cannibalize
and that's
their
what, and it's the
status
it's
quo.
not the people, again, politicians, good integrity in corporations may have good integrity, but the system doesn't allow you to follow your moral compass, because if you do the most ethical thing, you're going to lose out.
Yeah.
Because inefficiency is actually profit. It's like cost efficiency and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, I keep going off in different directions.
So you start with an online information.
Yes. So you've got the title, which is a question. You have the root cause, and then you have all the solutions based on research and not political opinion. Explained very simply. So if people want to click geothermal energy, and then it tells them about that. That's what education should be. People go, I understand that. Oh, so what's that about? And people go on their own journey of self-discovery, and that's how the website works. So the second stage is then to enable audience acquisition. And what you do is you build a database, which I started doing, for charities and activist groups, because, again, the integrity of the people in it is good, but the system won't allow them to function together because of competition.
These are charity groups.
Charities will...
Sean Penn says that. He's in Haiti right now.
Right.
And he's like the Doctors Without Borders and the Red Cross, and all these charities are down there, and they're fighting with each other, and they can't even get him to do things sometimes, and he's down there solo.
They're all fighting for the same cause, but they do have their own agendas sometimes, whether it's religious-based or anything like this. And so what my plan does is I can go up to any charity organisation and say, look at the website, are there any problems that are missing, any solutions? And what I'm allowing to happen is them to work together without compromising where they are in terms of a business and organisation. So there's no mergers, no people losing jobs. They're actually all helping indirectly. And so that's the second stage. And then the third stage is to create tools for spreading awareness. And that is effectively anyone, you, me, anyone could go on the street with an iPad, not putting up posters about KONY and one issue, which a lot of people would turn away from, not asking, would you like to donate your time and money to an issue, which may not relate to someone's own hierarchy, because if you lost someone to cancer, you'd be more willing to donate to that. If you have an animal, more willing to donate. You say, excuse me, what matters to you? And people will be taken back, but I've done it and it works. And people start thinking, and people go, well, this matters to me. And then you bring up the site and you go, this is why it's happening. I never saw it that way, and why is this not being done? And that is true inspiration. People start questioning why, and what you'll see is on all these question time panels now, which I can't watch anymore, and these rallies, it's not going to be slogans shouted, it's people actually saying this is what needs to be done. And therefore my belief is, with the Universal Solutions Project, is if you increase the education awareness of a general population across the world, government becomes irrelevant, because they have to be more intelligent to keep control.
Wow. Such an incredible way to look at it.
You're like inspiring activism. You're almost like promoting people to be more active and more educated.
And it's not telling people to be more active. Right. It's once they become aware, and it's what it comes down to. The only reason I am doing what I am today is because of what I know. That's what we all are about. And the example I gave on my lecture tour I gave was something called Reading Genius. And I asked a room of 600 people, has anyone heard of it? And no one had. And they were blown away when I said this.
Reading Genius?
So it's called Reading Genius. It's by a man called Ed Stracher. And it can teach you to read up to 100 pages a minute with total recall. And what it does, it retrains your brain, because when you're young and you're in school, you learn to read with an inner monologue. So you're actually reading the words as if out loud, but in your head. So that's at a certain pace, as you should be reading it as intaking information. And so it comes with music, which slows down your brain waves, which is that of a child. It's why they absorb information a lot more. And it builds up your confidence with reading. And therefore, when you start reading faster, you read more books, and it becomes a self-practicing.
And you've used this program?
Yeah, so I didn't finish the course. I read about 30 pages a minute, but it's amazing because the average person, me included, 1 page a minute. I read a 300.
Definitely get that.
I read a 300-page novel within 10 minutes before my lesson, and I remember in the class I said, "Oh, isn't there a quote halfway down page 53?" And it was spot on, and I freaked myself out. Everyone thought I was a weirdo.
Did you do this in Supercamp?
I did, actually.
Yeah, the same thing.
We did speed read, yeah. I mean, you go down with your hand on each page, and
do you still use that?
You scan for words. No, I don't. I like reading my inner monologue, but I read really slow. I'm like, and then the dog jumped over the fence.
But there is leisure reading, and it's about the back, because people go, "What if I like to read?" And it's like, well, you can. It's just that if you were driving a car and you could go 10 miles per hour or 60 on a motorway, so it's legal, this metaphor, people would rather go faster. It's your brain can go so much faster. But then the question is, sorry, to finish, is why is this not, the questions are, why did I not know about this before? Why is this not being taught in the system? How can I do it? And people want to learn. And people, and I don't really promote the book because it's quite expensive. I don't want to tell people what to buy, but the response has been phenomenal, and that can exist on anything in society today.
So if the Universal Solutions Project becomes ultimately successful, what will happen? Like, what is the end goal, or in your mind? People
will become self-governing. People start voting on policies. People become scientists. In themselves, because they can educate themselves. It comes up a lot lately that everyone's a scientist when you're a child, and then it gets crushed out of you by the education system, which I agree in a lot of ways. And I actually realised only the past few weeks, because when growing up I thought scientists were cold people that didn't care about emotion. It's kind of, a lot of religious rhetoric may say that, but actually it's the most ethical thing. And it's weird, because it's like, who's more of a hero? Is it the fireman who goes into a burning building and saves someone from the fire, or is it the scientist that designed something that never let it happen in the first place? And when you think of a culture and who gets the most congratulations,
it's the actor who played the fireman in the movie.
Or it's even that. Yeah, it's a step further. And it's not me. Again, I'm not criticising. And this is the problem when I start going on my train of thoughts of criticising the system. I get a lot of slack, because it's called just world theory. People like to believe they live in a just world. So I did a video recently called "What a Waste of Human Potential," and it was about a guy I saw on the street wearing a golf cell jacket. And I said that he has the potential to be so much more. People going, "How dare you say that? He may enjoy what he's doing and all that." Perhaps he does. All I'm saying is I believe in a society where people don't have to just stand there. Everyone can become scientists and contribute to society, but the nature of the system is there will always be the odd one out. There will always be people that have to do the worst jobs, which don't need to be done.
So you said, are you claiming that's an inherent problem with the current system?
Completely.
Okay. Have you ever read any of the works of Ayn Rand?
I haven't, no.
She has basically what she's saying is, let's not worry about a heaven after we die. Let's try to make a heaven here on earth.
I've heard that. And it's exactly right.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the Universal Solutions Project. I really hope it works.
Me too.
The scope is huge.
Yeah, and it scares me. But meeting Jacques Fresco, this 95-year-old man, it made me realise, and the fact he's not bitter. Even Ron Paul, actually, he'd been going on with the same thing for 30 years. It's that thing. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win.
It's Gandhi's quote, right?
Gandhi. Yeah, and I'm in it for the long run. But
do you ever feel? I mean, what if this succeeds, or if you, even if it doesn't succeed, but if you actually started, you are taking on the governments of the world. I mean, are you not worried about dudes in a van pitching up and throwing you inside? Does that not scare you?
A lot of people ask me that. My parents are quite worried. My mum is more. She's more of keep your head in a bubble. But my belief is, if something's going to burst that bubble, I'd rather know about it and do something about it. I think my method is, it's not like WikiLeaks, where it's illegally getting information, which is debatable. It's not civil disobedience of protests and being violent. It is orchestrating information that is already there in a legal form. So I think I'm safer than if I did any of the other mediums. there may be challenges, but
I like this idea.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I do believe that if everyone becomes self-aware or aware, that people will be self-governing. I really do. And I don't know, you guys were talking about SOPA earlier. I mean, that thing got shut down fast, didn't it? And it was because all the people spoke, and basically all the senators and congressmen heard everyone freaking out and like, okay, we're not going to. It was almost as if it went to a popular vote.
Right.
Because everyone freaked out so much because everyone was educated, and the internet, I guess by definition, they were educated about it because it was on the internet. But
and you've got to be careful with mob rule, but I think mob rule becomes irrelevant if everyone has access to the same information. It's that thing, isn't it, of just if everyone had access, people don't like to be in the know-how, people like gossip because people don't want to be left out. So if there's a website where whenever there was a problem, they go, I'd go to it. I think it'd be a talking point at the dinner table and all that. But the problem I face is I need people that can help me build the site first, and I wish I could do it as a job, really. I can't.
I guess you need funding like anything else.
But charities want me to come in and talk to them, but I don't think, because it challenges all aspects of establishment, which is what my UK tour was about. It challenges charity, education, because technically you don't need to be in debt of hundreds of thousands of dollars when you can just get access for free online. And the education system's flawed in itself. The thing I go on about is how you condemn someone for the rest of their life just because they can't regurgitate information in a 2-hour exam.
That is priceless.
If they could do a podcast or audio or coursework and they have a lot to contribute to society, let them do it. Don't condemn them and make it so they struggle just because they can't do that.
Yeah, you are challenging everything, aren't you? You're not really taking on one organization, you're taking on everything.
And then there's the government, and then there's even activism. A lot of activist groups are very one sort of topic focused. I mean, the Zeitgeist movement I left, I'm still a part of their train of thought and I still support them, and people criticise me saying, why have you left it? And I said, well, ironically, it's what the Zeitgeist movement advocates, which is not being a part of a label, because as soon as you label yourself as a part of any organisation, you're defined by that.
Can you summarize what the Zeitgeist movement is for either people that are listening that don't know, or
for
me?
Yeah, so
I've watched a bit of the films, but yeah.
So there was 3 movies. The first one was, well, all of them were done by a guy called Peter Joseph, who was a percussionist. He was doing a percussion piece and wanted some video. So it was about religion, the financial system, and 9/11, whether it was an inside job or not. It got huge online on Google Video before YouTube. I'm not a huge supporter of that particular film. I think it definitely made me ask questions. What I believe in is completely irrelevant, because I didn't think 9/11 religion is that important. I think people can adhere to religion. And actually with conspiracy theories, my point is if you have transparency, there'll no longer be conspiracy theories, because conspiracy and discussion just waste time. If the information is just available, we can then get on with the real issues. But the second and third movie was promoting something called the Venus Project, which I've already mentioned,
right.
Jacques Fresco. They've sort of gone their own separate ways. They support each other still, but they want to do their own things. And sort of the Zeitgeist movement is just promoting a resource-based economy and trying to be active. But I've tried to get them on board with the Universal Solutions Project, and a lot of them do, but the movement as a whole will not jump on board with it, which is a shame.
And you're waiting yourself to get, like you said, more technology or get your infrastructure set up? Because I saw you gave a talk recently on Z-Day, right?
That was, yeah, so that was at the Zeitgeist Day.
Zeitgeist Day in London. When was that?
So that was March 13th, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And you were saying a lot of people come up to you afterwards and are like, Myles, what can I do? And you said, I want to get the infrastructure in place before I sign you up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you need to get that infrastructure in place?
So I need people that can design a wiki site, which a lot of people can do, but I also want someone who can organise the team, because I did start it up last year, but then people were like, so this is how you do a wiki site, Myles, now can you do it? And it's not that I don't think I'm too good to be doing that job. It's my role is inspiring and spreading awareness. Like that's my job.
Your talents will be used more effectively.
Exactly, and I'd rather other people. And we're starting to put a team together. And we had people from, I think, over like 30 countries, people, translation teams, a lot who were in the Zeitgeist movement, and people ask questions, what about places where they don't have internet? Well, each page will be able to be printed into a flyer. Like the realms of possibility are just remarkable.
What does it cost to run Wikipedia every year? I know they get a lot of donations and staff. And
I'm not sure really.
Is it huge? I mean, is it?
I'm not sure.
Or is it like $10 million or $3 million? It's not that big, though, is it?
I was really impressed the way they switched it off in protest of those of Pippa and Was it SEPA? What was the other one?
So it was SOPA and PIPA.
Yeah, and they just
Did they just
one
turn
day,
it off?
Yeah, one day I went
24 hours.
Really?
searching for something on Wikipedia, and it came up and said, "Imagine an internet without Wikipedia." And
So
it
strong.
was a powerful statement.
But they're not doing it with CISPA, and the reason why is it's favouring corporations. It just basically means they're less liable now if they give government information. Because every time the government approach companies, they have to go, well, is this legal? Are we going to get sued? So the government are now going to say, just give it over, we'll give you money, and you won't get sued.
So tricky. I mean, if you were running a corporation and the government came to you and said, we need their information, this is the government that taxes you and can potentially shut you down. I mean, what would you do?
Tell them to go fuck themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
when you're in prison?
Yeah. It's tough though. Everyone's hostage by the system. Even the politicians. It was like they were talking about the whole issue of this building they're building in the States to sift through emails, and they go, but is that really important when Obama's in charge? But they're saying if Obama's making decisions based on information that's put on his desk, who's really in control?
Yeah.
This is something I was thinking about in the past week, Brian. Like something to do with politics. So you say if you don't vote, like you don't count.
You're paraphrasing me, but yeah, I'll take on that viewpoint. Go ahead.
Man,
hit me.
Do you really think that any system that allowed a guy like George W. Bush, who, let's be honest, I mean,
He was a great president.
Let's be honest, the guy looks like he acts and looks like he just swung off a tree. He struggles to string sentences together. Do you really believe that dude is running the biggest, most powerful country in the world?
So then you go back to your conspiracy theories, which aren't really based in anything. So just to point the finger and say, "Oh, corporations are screwing us.
Okay,
my vote doesn't count." I mean,
George
come
Bush,
on. He was popularly elected by the U.S. I mean, a president only has so much.
Doesn't that say something about the system that guy was elected?
I mean, you can have.
So I don't know if it's conspiracy theory though, because I think he's just asking questions.
Well, okay.
Or maybe not. If you,
no,
I don't know.
I'm just interested. To me, that's indicative of the fact that the system is broken. Like that guy. I mean,
and then,
if we had a guy like Myles elected, then I'd be like, wow, this thing's working.
But then that turns into apathy, though. I mean, like I get that question, but then you're like, oh, it doesn't work. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm not going to do anything. And then when that turns to apathy, then I don't get it. Then I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? You're saying that doesn't work, so I don't want to play your game.
Well, I'd rather like play Miles's game. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather instead of voting, I'd rather put some effort into helping USP.
Yeah. Are you playing that game?
Well,
is anybody playing that game?
It's the good. No, because it's true though, because a lot of people support it.
If you like it so much, why don't you marry it?
But no, that is the thing though. So many people support it, and they just haven't got involved because I don't think people realise what they can do. And I think at this point, because it is in such the early stages,
it's very abstract. But I like it when you nailed it down. I kind of get it now. But when you first talked about it, I was
dude,
like,
don't say you liked it now, bro.
Dude, I already joined.
It unifies.
I liked it before you liked it.
Dude, let him finish.
It brings all the concepts in the world together. It does, and that was why I love the internet, because again, it doesn't matter if you're a musician, artist, anything. I used to say video blogging was the purest form of creativity because you could use any particular aspect of creativity in any combination online, and it's why when you go to YouTube gatherings around the world, everyone gets on. If I'm into heavy metal and I meet a stamp collector, we're going to get on well because we have that common denominator.
Or being creative online.
Yeah, and the common denominator in the Universal Solutions Project is we want to fix the world so everyone has a better life. And I think everyone wants it. The point at which people don't want it, I shouldn't say don't want it, don't have it as their main priority, it is when they have to then go back to the system. So for example, volunteering, huge percentages in the States of the amount of people that do volunteering work, but what is the point what is the point at which people stop volunteering? It's when they have to put up their hands and then go, sorry, I've now got to go back to my job. Mm-hmm. And you can actually create a society that if everyone has the necessities of life provided to them, you'd have a much more prosperous society, and actually it would be better for everyone. It's just in our current system, it's if one person, if you step away from the system, you're going to lose out. Mm-hmm. So people have to keep playing the game. So who's going to make the first move? And it's the same with renewable energy. Who's going to make the first move? Because in our current system, whatever company spends all the money on developing something and it fails, one of the Zeitgeist movies talked about, I won't mention the drug company because I need to clarify if it's a true story. I'm pretty sure it was.
You're very careful what you say.
Yeah, I know. You have to, and it's why I'm making clear that people should look into this. But either way, it's a good illustration. There was a drug company that researched into a drug which couldn't be sold because it gave people the HIV virus. So the government said, you're not selling it. And in the end, they repackaged it and distributed it across Europe, so they could cover the cost of what they would have lost. Because if you're a company, you're spending millions and millions of dollars and it fails, which in my theory is a good thing because you learn what the right way. It's the science is about disproving stuff.
I love scientists, by the way.
Yeah.
I am a scientist.
I think we
An
all
extremely good-looking scientist.
Thank you very
Let
much.
the record state.
By background. But I wonder if like 5 or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we'll be looking back and we're like, this is where the USP started and this is the
hope
kernel
so.
idea you had, and then everyone's using it.
We-
And I'd be happy if people don't vote, but then they get involved in something like this.
And
Then I'd be
you'll
happy.
be the captain of the USP with all your minions beneath you.
No,
Let's do it.
it's not about one person.
But
That was a joke, Brian.
the scary truth is we have about 30, 40 years to turn this world around.
Yeah.
Because there's a few timelines. You've got population growth is going to hit its max in the next 40 years. Then in the next 20, you've got resource depletion. And in the next 10 years, the whole financial
Man,
system
Brian doesn't believe we're running out of resources.
No, I don't. And I don't think the financial system's going to crash in 10 years.
is...
And I think people were thinking the same thing 50 years ago.
That's you see.
Yeah,
that's a very intelligent.
But I do think we do need to make some changes here. For
No,
that.
yeah, but my point is, I don't want it to crash. Although I'm saying it is, that's assuming that any of our attempts aren't going to work. So I think it can, and the reason why is the difference in the time that we live in now to any time before, like the last Great Depression, is there was so many resources still available. As there's something called peak oil, which is the fact that every time we drill for oil, the cost to get it out the ground of energy to how much we get back is slowly changing, and there's going to be a tipping point where it costs more energy to get it out the ground than the amount of energy we get back. And if that happens and there's panic, oil prices go through the roof, it completely shockwaves the entire system, and then people want to switch to renewable resources. But if you've got a whole society that has not got this energy for food packaging, transporting stuff, all these sort of things, and there's this panic, and then there's like one renewable plant in the world, territorial dispute. And the metaphor I used in my talk is the Titanic, which is the fact that you can be in denial that the ship is sinking, and if you go for the life rafts just as it's going below the water, although I'm using it as a metaphor, not exactly what happened, but if you wait until the boat is just below the water and then you all go for the life rafts at once, it's going to be carnage, and it's not going to support everyone. So we have to put things in place now.
And if people, we've only got a few minutes left, guys. If people want to get in touch with you or find out more about this, how would they do it? And then also, if they want to give their time, because I know Nick wants to sign up and start doing something with his life.
Enlist.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
But I mean, to help, how can we help?
So the Facebook page is facebook.com/Universal Solutions Project. The reason it's not the in it is because we didn't want it to sound arrogant, like this is the one. It was just a Universal Solutions Project. Also my Facebook.com/Myles376. That's my personal one. You can subscribe. I'm doing like podcasts every few weeks on Universal Solutions Project, but because there's not much happening, I don't want everyone to keep tuning in to hear nothing, because then they'll get desensitized. It's very difficult because this is the second attempt at it. And I know time's running out. So
Now, before we go, we got to hear what it's like to be the lead singer in a band, and we have to find out about
Groupies.
groupies.
well, we haven't performed yet.
Have you got YouTube groupies?
Yeah, but I'm very responsible. I like to think I am, and the reason
that's too bad.
The reason why is because people online, although I'm very honest with who I am online, ultimately it's a persona. When you see a video of mine, that is a series of sentences. They're not having a conversation. They don't know who I am really. So yeah, I hang out with people, and I get on with girls a lot better because they're much more open in conversation and that. But I'm very careful. It's just because I've had a few bad experiences with girls in the past.
Like bunny boilers and the like.
What is that?
Bunny boilers?
Oh, what's a bunny boiler?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Reference to Fatal Attraction. Okay. I guess you are a persona online. Do you have that hard time when you meet people because they're expecting the Myles persona, and then they get you?
The surprising thing is they say I'm exactly what they expected, which they find really weird, because they're like, I thought you, because a lot of video bloggers, they are different. They're quite shy people and then very loud on video and that. As me, I just, for what I said earlier, I just put myself out there, because then if people don't like me, they've had a warning, you know, like that. And I think people respect that for the most part. So.
Wow, that's cool. Guys, this hour flew. I mean, like, absolutely flew.
Yeah, that was really mind expanding.
No, it was really, really cool. Well, we know how to get in touch with you and check it out. And I hope everyone does look at the Universal Solutions Project and contact you to help.
Thanks for having me on. I love this show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
From strength to strength.
He was like an early adopter of London Real. Myles is a fan.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
So thanks, man.
Oh, just one thing from my side, guys. I've got a new site up. It's called The Art of Beautiful Living. You can find it at www.artofbeautifulliving.com. Got a new article on meditation up that if anyone's interested in meditation, check it out.
It's on our Facebook London Reelers group as well. So
that's how I need to relax, is start meditating. I tried it once and then I didn't keep in a rhythm, but I need to
not enough.
It isn't.
check out the article.
It was really long.
Well, good dude. Thanks for coming on.